you guys, like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. You never know what you're going to get on my channel, as you've seen. And you never know when something's going to get deleted, because that happens too. Okay, so, and join the Patreon, you guys. Join the Patreon. Oh my God, it's so fun in there. We've really got a good group. Today's video is about how Tamra Judge blames Teddi Mellencamp for something she did without her permission that got Andy Cohen pissed off at Tamra and may actually impact their relationship. So I want to talk about it, and it went under the radar. A lot of people missed it. So I'm like, I'm not gonna miss it. I'm gonna share it with you because I've got a pretty good ear now for what you guys really like, right? So I'm like, I'm going to share this one. I think everyone's going to be surprised. So we're going to listen to this interview. There's a shout out, of course, to Jeff Lewis, whose interview we're going to be listening to. And he's got a new TV show on Netflix. Although he's kind of on my naughty list because he came for my good friend Enti and also Dumois, which I don't like because they're very nice and he shouldn't put down their gossip because it's very good. Now, the other thing I want to say is that we're also going to be talking about Tamra Judge and Teddi Mellencamp's podcast a little bit in regards to some tea that is mentioned in this Jeff Lewis stuff. So anyway, want to make sure that you guys know that I always, even when I don't really like somebody, I give them their due shout out. And I will put stuff in the description if you want to go find it, okay? All right, let's do this. Let's dish it. So before we begin this video, it's really important that you understand something, okay? The way Bravo works is that either you're going to stick to their narrative and what they are okay with, releasing or talking about, or you're not, okay? And they have different times in the process of things happening that they're gonna be okay with certain things, and then there's other times they won't be, and so it's a little bit difficult to follow. I made a decision in the beginning of starting the show back during COVID, when I started dishing drama, Dana Wilkey Uncensored, and also my Instagram, that I was going to walk away from any future involvement with Bravo. And because I didn't want it to taint my art, my gossip, what I talked about. I wanted to be free of it, to be able to be different. I also knew that with that, I was going to give up a lot of stuff. I knew that I wasn't going to be invited to do Ultimate Girls Trip. I knew I wasn't going to be asked to do their cute little videos on Bravo. What are they doing now? I knew I'd probably get cut out of the book, which they did after interviewing me for 4 hours. I knew that, I wasn't going to get any support from them, okay? And I'm really shocked even that they post my picture from time to time from season 2 to promote things, but that's really to a credit to you guys because you're like, listen, we don't care about whether you like Dana or not. We're holding on to our season 2 moments and we're not letting them go, or our season 3 moments and we're not letting them go. Screw you. So if you want us to like your posts, put the stuff in that we like, whether you like her or not. And that shows your power, right? So very good. I also knew I was going to struggle to interview Bravo celebrities that were currently under contract with Bravo or were being dangled things in the future, which they probably won't ever get. They do that all the time and they don't follow through. But people stay for years going, well, maybe something will happen if I just stay in my good little box over here and do what I'm supposed to. And then they're disappointed to find out Bravo never calls. They do this a lot. But anyway, I decided I wanted to be rebellious, as always, and I did, which is thus why I seem to talk about things that sometimes nobody talks about or that disappear. So that said, I wanted to give you this background because Andy seems to be pissed at Tamra Judge and Teddi Mellencamp for bucking the approved narrative and posting things that are tea before the Bravo is ready for them to go out. And Teddi doesn't understand that the reason that Kyle Richards and Lisa Rinna and all these girls are able to go on the show, her show, is because Andy Cohen, up until a little bit ago, saw her as a team player, someone that, you know, he wanted to back in the Bravo landscape. So when Lisa Rinna says, I'm going on Teddi Mellencamp, my good friend's show, the publicity department at Bravo is like, great, no problem. Just, you know, don't talk about these 3 things, or Teddi, you know, don't ask these things. And they think it's going to happen. But now that boat seems to have rocked. And I've seen retaliation when that boat is rocked. And if you rely on current Bravo guests, you're going to run into a problem if you rock that boat. Even David Yontif knows that he has to walk a very careful line, because he could be blacklisted from Bravo, and then some of his Bravo celebrities, which I'm sure are some of his bigger downloads on his podcast, will be said they'll say no. I've had many of my friends that are on Bravo shows want to go on the pod. And even with us saying, listen, we will stay away from talking about this, we'll stay away from talking about that, they cannot come on. The publicity department nixes it. And they want to. They're my friends. They're like dying to hang out. They want to give you guys the tea as much as they can. Yep. So I know how it works. Okay, so now this is going to make it so much more juicier as you listen to this interview. Okay, so this is definitely giving me Disney vibes. Princess Disney vibes.
I wanted to ask you about Andy's comment on my show last week.
Yeah.
So obviously I always say to Andy and everyone else on this radio that I think you should be brought back to OC Housewives.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So Andy says, how do you go on a Housewives show when you're doing a behind-the-scenes podcast about Housewives?
Right. And I have talked to Andy.
What is your response to that?
My response is that I feel like Andy was being fed a line of bullshit. The fact that my podcast was a behind the scenes. We're not a behind the scenes. We don't dig up dirt. We don't expose production. We don't do that. We just don't do that. And I feel like somebody's been in his ear telling him that that's what we do. And I asked him, I said, have you listened? And he said, no. And I said, well, you can't just read headlines and expect to believe that.
So he's hearing secondhand.
He's hearing secondhand.
Here's the thing, right? Andy would not be happy with the tea that is spilled on their podcast. I can tell you that right now, because he doesn't want anyone doing behind the scenes stuff ever on his shows, because they want to be the ones at Bravo to drop the tea and make the money off that, not Tamra and Teddi Mellencamp on their side podcast. What was interesting about this is I thought that Andy had helped those two come together, but it sounds to me like he doesn't have anything to do with this podcast. Now, what's weird is Andy Cohen really saying through Jeff Lewis, if you do your own podcast show and it talks about housewives in a behind-the-scenes way or gossipy way, we may not support you anymore on camera, meaning we won't bring you back on any shows. So get in line, ladies. Now, I know that Teddi Mellencamp knows that she is never going to be invited back to Beverly Hills or any other show to do with Housewives. She knows this. She's out. So she has nothing to lose. But Tamra was invited to Ultimate Girls Trip. And by the way, I don't think Tamra knew she had Ultimate Girls Trip when she joined this podcast with Teddi. I don't know if she would have risked it had she known that Andy Cohen was bringing her on Ultimate Girls Trip, okay? So anyway, she ends up getting Ultimate Girls Trip. So Tamra's like, I don't know, I want to start severing ties with Bravo to this level yet because they're still in bed with me and I'm getting paychecks from them. But her partner, Teddi, isn't. So what's about to happen makes a lot of sense to me because Teddi wants her podcast at all costs to do well. And her Insta feed is an Instagrammer, like a influencer. But Tamra is more about TV work right now. And so Teddi is going to be more likely to drop the tea, but Tamra has to be careful. Now, Teddi is going, if Tamra gives something to Teddi, she's going to pretend like, oh, I won't share that, but she's going to find a way because she needs to protect her money stream. and her fame at this point that she has it through her own stuff. Whereas Tamra is relying on Bravo. So I see a parting of the ways that could happen soon if Bravo keeps working with Tamra, right? So let's continue.
Think it's maybe someone from production, like maybe one of the cast members feeding him this information?
Duh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have you narrowed it down? There's a lot of, of women on that cast.
Yeah.
Have you been able to narrow it down?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
consider the source.
Consider.
Noella, Gina,
No.
Shannon.
No.
Who else is on there? Emily,
No.
Heather.
Oh,
So you think, why would Heather not want you to come back to the show?
If you were Heather, would you want me to come back to the show?
there you go.
Well,
Good.
Heather did really have a great season. No, she wasn't challenged too often. The
No.
only person that really challenged her was Noella,
Right.
Yeah.
which, as crazy as she is, I kind of was glad she was there.
I think a lot of people were.
Yeah.
It's very confusing to me and also kind of heartbreaking because I always rallied for Heather to come back after she left. Like I asked Andy, I would talk
So
about
Heather
it.
Dubrow does not want Tamra on Real Housewives of Orange County. Now, Jeff Lewis hates Heather. So this is why he's invited Tamra on the show following what Andy Cohen said a week before. Okay? And they're going to get into more detail about that in a minute. But that's what's happening here. Okay, so Jeff Lewis knows it's Heather already, and he's pretending like he doesn't, but he wants to drag Heather, which is why he is setting this up so beautifully, because he can't stand Heather, because Heather was rude to him at one point. Okay, now just for the people who hate Heather, her show that she was supposed to have with her husband never made it to actually get picked up by any network. So it ended up just being an episode of Botched. So Jeff Lewis can relish in that. Now let's move on. I don't know if you guys knew that. It's in the Patreon if you want to see the receipts.
And I just thought she was a nice person. I thought she brought wealth to the show, and I thought the show needed it. And then when she got on the show, people would say "What do you think about Tamra coming back to the show?" She goes, "She had a good run."
Oh,
And I thought, oh, ouch.
Oh.
And then she started saying, "I think we should bring Alexis Bellino back." And I'm like, wow.
Jesus jugs.
Yeah. So,
And you guys were friends.
yeah. Friendly.
Interesting. Friendly.
Yeah, we didn't really hang out. We talk once in a while. She would text. I would text.
Does she hang out with anyone from the cast, really?
No,
Not that I know of.
told you.
So I had a conversation with her and was very confused on what was going on. And
You talked to Heather
yeah, I talked to Heather about it. And
recently.
a couple weeks ago.
Okay, and what did she
So
say?
she did a podcast saying the same thing that Andy said.
Oh. So
So-
she's agreeing with Andy, or the original thought came from her. And then it
Original
was-
thought came from her.
Yeah, and then it went to,
Of course
okay,
they
got
did.
it.
And she's like, "Oh, no. It was my co-host that was on the show. He was bringing up this and that and saying that I was a blogger.
She
and
always
that I
does that.
have no space on the show, which I'm not a blogger. I have a podcast just like her. And even in her bio on her podcast, it says recapping Housewives.
Right.
So why is that any different than what I do?
Good point.
So she stayed quiet while this co-host was saying all these
The
things
last
about
10
you?
minutes were devoted to trashing me, saying I have no life, that all I do is sit around and watch Housewives shows, and how Heather, when she wasn't on the show, she didn't watch the show. And I'm like, well, way to support Bravo.
Well, I would think that, regardless, you would want a successful season, right? So
Yes.
if I was on the show and they were bringing
Just
someone back
talking
who
to
I
Angie now.
knew who could potentially boost ratings or make the show more interesting, isn't the goal just to keep the show on the air?
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
to make it successful?
Yeah.
But
Well, what happened was...
And here's the
day-
part that I love. This is where Andy gets pissed, really pissed. And it's because of Teddi. Listen.
a picture of the reunion, and Teddi posted it and watermarked it with 2 T's in a pod. And Heather used that as, oh my God, Tamra's exposing, which I didn't have anything to do with it. And I felt like crap afterwards, and it caused a big shitstorm. And I'm like, fuck, Teddi, you shouldn't have done that. So she used that as, oh, Tamra's a blogger. She's doing behind the scenes. And I told her, I said, and she texted me. It's like, why would you post that at 12:30 in the morning? And I'm like, I didn't even respond to her. I'm like, I don't have to answer to you, and I'm not going to answer to you. So
do you think that, this last season was kind of like the Heather Dubrow show? And
They promoted every business she has.
yeah.
She was the first one to walk in and out every single door. It was Heather Dubrow's world.
I'm not sure you could hear all of that. So basically, Teddi Mellencamp, without the permission of Bravo and without the permission of Tamra, used a picture sent to Tamra in confidence from one of the cast members, maybe even Heather Dubrow, which is why she was so pissed about what they were wearing at the reunion on the set early, before anyone else had it. And they dropped it to promote the podcast, or Teddi dropped it to promote the podcast, to say, look, we're such insiders, we get tea before anyone else does. But that really pissed off Andy, because they don't want you guys to see the looks or the set or any of that crap before they're ready. So he's like, wait a minute, you're going from a recap podcast to a tea behind the scenes, rebellious, not doing our following our rules and our narrative show. And he was pissed. And he's like, if you want to play that way, watch how I play. And Tamra was like, oh shit, I'm about to go on Ultimate Girls Trip. Now, at this point, she was lucky she'd already done it, because he might have pulled her from it. They're really, really like that. So she was lucky. She did it. Now we're going to see her on Ultimate Girls Trip. But like, Bravo may say that's it with that one. There's more where she came from. Okay. Or we don't need her anymore. And, that's that. And an alienator. So, anyway, Tamra knew that relationship was very valuable. Now, like I said, Teddi was being selfish because she didn't, she's like, look, I don't care about Bravo anymore. She's made that so clear. I can tell you some tea on that if you want.
Rumors that the night that Nicole Weiss, when she had started, when she brought up the lawsuit, the alleged lawsuit against Terry, there were rumors that they didn't react very well behind the scenes. And who told us that? But that Terry and Heather were very, very angry with the producer.
And aggressive.
Like, I even heard physically aggressive.
Well,
did you hear the same rumors?
Well, there's a lot of rumors. You never know what to believe. I mean, Noella talked about it, and she was shut down pretty quickly. And so, I mean,
not following the story.
I don't know. I think where there's smoke, there's fire.
Okay. So,
I've never personally known Heather to be physical. I've never seen that side of her. So, and then when Noella mentioned it and nobody else supported her, then it makes you wonder, did it really happen?
So Noella never, from what I understand watching the show, it sounds like someone from the crew witnessed it.
Jeff does a good job explaining what happened here.
Really happen?
So Noella never, from what I understand watching the show, it sounds like someone from the crew witnessed it, told Noella, and then Noella, she repeated it. But the problem is that she wasn't honest in the beginning saying, I heard it from someone.
Right.
She said, I saw it.
Yeah.
So now no one believes her. However, I think it is very possible that it did happen. A crew member told Noella she should have just been honest and said a crew member, but then how do you do that? Because then you're breaking the fourth wall, whatever. But
I think it's one of
a witness. She should have said a witness.
Definitely they were upset. They were blindsided by it. I mean, I know Heather well enough and Terry, that they would be like, what the hell, I've been set up, and try to get to the bottom of it. What happened after that? I guess
I have a question for
know.
you. Was anyone, any producers or anything like that fired from that production, either shortly the season?
Well, I did hear that the executive producer is not coming back, and I don't know if Heather has anything to do with that. I don't know, but also on the Housewives, there's always different executive producers. Like every couple years, there's a new executive producer.
I feel like Heather has too much power.
But I think she definitely voices her opinions more than the average person. Like when I was on the show, I never complained.
And that's why she stayed for that many years. By the way, neither did Lisa Vanderpump. Popular wives that don't complain about the money, that, just do what Bravo says, last forever. That's the key to longevity on the show. Be popular with the fans, do a good job, and don't complain about the money or the offerings that you have or what comes out on the storyline. Go with it. stay supportive, and you will be on the show forever. That's the formula.
And I never had a fit about anything. I just did my job. I knew what I signed up for, showed up, went home, collected my paycheck.
Yeah. Now, what's going on? I just find it's this little tiff between Dorinda and Vicky.
Oh my God. I'm in the middle of that.
Well, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, I think it's been squashed now. I think originally what happened, and I was actually on the live. Vicky did a live with Bravo, Dubai Girls. And it was so funny because the Dubai girls were so glammed up. And then there's Vicky in her business suit and her hair all just sticking up. I'm like, oh God, Vicky. And she had said something like this, that Dorinda's house was out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And who would live out there? And the house is old. And I'm like, oh, I knew when she said it, this is not going to go over well with Dorinda.
Right.
I mean, they're both very strong personalities.
It's also, she's very emotionally attached to that house for so many different reasons.
Yes, I know. And so I knew it was going to go over well. So after it happened, I'm like, oh shit, Dorinda's going to fire back. And she did.
Yeah.
She fired back, and she basically said, like, I can't, what exactly?
At least I don't have a boyfriend that fakes cancer.
Vicky had no taste, and she dated guys that faked cancer.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So Dorinda knew where it hurt. It was the whole Cancergate thing. And then Vicky came back and said anything, which this is something I totally disagree with. Dorinda was not gifted with that house. I mean, if she had it her way, she'd rather have her husband than the house. When her husband passed away, she got the house.
Yeah.
You know, obviously both, they were
weird.
Married, both their names were on the house. So it wasn't like, here's a gift, Jeff, I give you this house. It was her,
Yeah.
her house with
Marital
her husband.
home, yeah.
Marital home. So it wasn't like she was gifted the house.
Well, then I heard that Vicky called Kelly and asked Kelly to get involved, right? And then did Vicky call you and ask you to get involved with Dorinda as well?
Well, I talked to both of them. I talked to Dorinda and I talked to Vicky, and I told them both, listen, I'm not getting involved in this whatsoever. If I say one thing to Vicky, she's going to throw it in my face and tell Dorinda, well, Tamra said. So I'm like, I'm not getting involved in this. Like, I like you both. I do feel like Vicky probably, a lot of times she doesn't think before she speaks, and she does it very passive aggressive. Like,
By the way, Teddi Mellencamp is selling her old house. Her new house is really nice. I was shocked. I was like, whoa. But she's selling her old one. If you were looking in the market for a house, you could go buy it. So what else was I going to tell you? So Tamra is walking a delicate line here. Now, Kelly did say that Emily texted her the night of the Heather incident and indeed said that Heather had physically done something to one of the cameramen. And Kelly said that Emily did that and kind of leaked her text messages over that. Sounds like Emily and Noelle got the same story. Okay, so now comes the good part. Kelly enters the conversation. Now, why is it a good? Well, because Kelly already knows that Bravo's never hiring her back. Okay, so she's like, all bets are off. She doesn't care what she says. She's like me, renegade lady, okay? She's trying to get another reality show going right now, which that kind of explains why she was rolling around at the Beverly Hills Hotel at that MTV after party, because I think she's trying to get a reality show off the ground without Bravo. So anyway, let's continue. Let's hear what Kelly has to say.
Hey.
Are you involved in this, Tiff?
I am involved in this. And I know Tamra is so diplomatic. She is so but Thomas Kelly called all of us, the producer, and he said to every single one of us, to Shannon, me, I don't know what he said to you, Tamra, but I think he said the same thing, that Heather Dubrow did push him, that Terry did push him against the wall, that he said that she was diabolical, that Heather Dubrow was, and that everyone was scared of her. Thomas Kelly said that, and I know Thomas Kelly wants it out, and I think this is what Thomas Kelly said. Tamra told him, do not go and talk about this publicly because it will ruin your career.
I did.
You did, didn't you?
That was wise. Okay.
Yeah, I just told him,
That was
it's
wise.
best. He was very just heated. He got fired. He thinks that she's the reason why. And I just told him, I said,
Oh my God, they fired the producer. What? How did I miss this?
Affect your career.
Right. I mean, at least with Bravo,
With
too.
Bravo.
Yes.
I mean, he did get a new job at Netflix, but I just said,
Good.
you know what?
Good for
Just
him.
people, if
That must be
truly
where
is what
Kelly's
happened-
going.
walls.
She's trying to get a show with him, I bet
Hopefully.
you.
That
and
truly
threatened.
is what happened.
Allegedly.
Then people like that get what was coming to them.
Yes. Okay, so you absolutely believe him, Kelly.
I absolutely believe. Well, Thomas isn't one to lie. Like he wasn't one to lie, and we all collectively think that Evolution was the one that was protecting the DeBros and didn't tell Bravo exactly what was happening, because it's very odd to me that this all came out and I mean, because Evolution deals with botched, and they do
Jeff, you might know more about this, but production's job also is, they're the middleman between Bravo and the talent, and they try to keep as many problems resolved within the production office and not bring them to Bravo, because Bravo's oh, well, what's the solution? Like, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution about it. So they probably take care internally all the issues, cast issues.
But what Kelly's saying is that you have to remember the season before was weak, right? So they bring in Heather and they're thinking, okay, we've got, some new blood, new life to this show. It's going to bring interest. The last thing they want is Heather to get fired.
Heather's not getting fired.
Well, I mean, I wonder what they would do if they knew.
If it came to light.
If this was all true, which we don't know if it's true. We're just relying on one
Jeff's like,
witness,
shit, I'm
which
gonna
is
get in
Thomas.
trouble.
But according to Kelly, he doesn't lie. So I don't know.
Jeff's like,
Interesting.
backtrack.
It's very interesting, Kelly.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Kelly drops a bomb, which is that Tamra's coming back to the OC. Now you know why she was so stressed out that Andy Cohen was pissed about her podcast with Teddi Mellencamp. Because she is it's being discussed to bring her back. Yep. And she's in the process of negotiating right now. Oh my goodness. Anyway, Kelly really wants Gina to get fired, which is funny. I don't like Gina either. I don't like Emily. Unpopular opinion. Emily was mean to me. That's why I don't like Emily in real life.
What you've heard since you talked to everyone, what does the new cast look like next season?
Tamra dies.
Well, I can't say. I don't know. I'm
She's
pretty
bullshit.
certain it's Tamra is going to be on there. I hope she is.
Tamra's dying.
I don't know.
Then who's
I mean,
leaving?
look,
Who's leaving, Kelly?
What was that?
Who's leaving? Who's being demoted to a friend? Who's getting fired? Do you know
Well,
anything?
First of all, I hope to God, I'm praying that Gina does, because she just works.
So I know it's true because Tamra doesn't say no, it isn't. And Tamra, like, her body language is, holy shit, I can't believe Kelly just said it. So there you got it, guys. Are you like shocked that didn't get more attention? Like, what? This is why I have to do, I have to sleuth, because people miss so many really juicy, amazing things, and I have to bring them to your attention. So here I am. All right. Okay. So what do you think about all this, you guys? Tamra coming back to the OC. Teddi and Tamra having two different agendas now that Tamra's back in Bravo land and Teddi's been excommunicated. What do you think about Heather and how Evolution fired a producer over Heather pushing him over a storyline they allowed? And there's a lot more to that Heather situation in that lawsuit than was the rumor is, and again, I don't know. I'm like Jeff Lewis over here. I'm like, allegedly. One of the reasons Nicole quit the Real Housewives of Orange County was because she had settled that lawsuit with Heather and Terry out of court. That was what happened. They said that she dropped it, but supposedly what really happened was they settled it. And Nicole was, I guess, felt really attacked because she didn't recognize that was going to be the thing they focused on, which is dumb, because I'll tell you right now, the only reason Nicole was cast was because she had, in the first place, sued Terry Dubrow. I know the producers think probably in the casting tape, she mentioned it as into one of the questions. Do you know any of the housewives? And she probably said, well, I did have this incident with Heather Dubrow and Terry about 10 years ago. Can't wait to read the comments, guys. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. You never know what you're going to find out on this channel because people miss things all the time. But I don't.